Hi everyone, and I'm super happy to be here with all of you, and I'm really glad that we're getting a chance to talk about your incredible films that really moved me a lot. And thank you, Diff, for organizing this and for asking us to be here. I think you know, nonfiction as a category is something that is extremely exciting for me as a filmmaker, and I'm sure all of you who are working with it and absolutely, in the most sort of ingenious ways. So I thought maybe we can start with introducing ourselves and our films and our films that are playing at DIF, which is, on it's very special. It's a very special edition of DIF. It's its 10th year, and it's really been one of my most favorite festivals. And of course, being there is a whole other experience that I have fortunately had twice. So I'm just going to pretend that we're there somehow. But so to start off, let me ask you to introduce yourselves, and then I will introduce myself at the end. So do you want to start, Shrutiman?
Hi, I'm Shrutiman, and I'm from Guwahati. So filmmaking started for me like 5 years back. So I'm mostly into music, and I basically play guitar and trumpet, and then I have a band back home. Like I stay in Bombay now, and I really don't know how it started. Few years back, I actually wanted to do sound designing, and I tried giving the examination for FTI, and I cleared it. I went to Pune, and then I cleared the oral interviews as well, and then I got through. But then because of my back papers, I couldn't get admission. So after that, the filmmaking thing was always there, and since I'm a musician, whenever I watch films and all that, audio aspect was always there, and somehow I decided to buy a DSLR, and that's how it all started. I wanted to do my own music videos, and I got more drawn into the craft, and now here I'm like making things that I want to do, like documentary fiction, every kind of audiovisual things. So during the pandemic, there was this filmmaking competition kind of thing that PSBT organized, and I was a part of a school. There's a school called Parizad Academy in Guwahati, and they give free education to those who are underprivileged, like for people who are from the remote villages, surrounding villages and all. So one of my friend actually was working, doing volunteer work in that school, and I got the opportunity to visit the school, and I visited the school a couple of times, and I was doing photographs, taking photographs for the kids, for the children of the school, and that's how I came to know about this, about a community who stays in the forest, like forest dwellers. So there's a forest reserve called Garbhanga, which is around 30 kilometers from Guwahati. So the school, they're providing free education. Like it was started by Mr. Uttam Teran. So he has always been, he keeps going to all these remote places, and he realized that like, he wants to do something for them, and he started this school like some 10 years back. And when I went there, I met few kids. Like they have a dormitory which has around like 30-40 kids, and most of them, like 90% of them, are from this forest reserve. So that's how I came to know about the kids, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to start documenting them, because yeah, I thought like it's something that people should know. It was before pandemic, and when the pandemic happened, then I knew, okay, this is the right time. I should actually, because I know that pandemic has affected them in like different ways, because I come from a city, I stay in a town, in a city, and my experience is mostly with how the kids are how the kids are suffering, like staying, confined in, concrete four walls. And that's a different kind of struggle. But again, the kids who are from the village, like they are going through a different kind of a struggle. So I thought like I should explore and know more about them. So I took permissions. It was a little difficult for me. Then I started staying with them in the dormitory. So most of the kids from the dormitory were from this village. So that's how this documentary Nesotal, it started, the idea of it. And
Shrutiman, I'm going to get into all of this in the conversation.
Yes.
But for now, let's
Okay.
just briefly introduce our films and ourselves,
Yes.
and then we'll get into these.
Yes.
Everyone's really curious to know about your process.
Right.
Yeah. So
yes.
So someone else, anyone next? Akshay, maybe.
Hello. Hi. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Akshay Ingle. I'm from Akola. Currently, I'm a last year student at Film and Television Institute of India. I'm a cinematography student there for 3 year film course. Why? So our institute is shut off from March 2020 when this pandemic happens. So that time I was at my hometown Akola, and in August when schools are reopening online, so that time I decided to shoot a family in which the father is a teacher, and the two kids are there, a girl who is in a second standard and a boy who is in fourth standard, and the mother, she's a housewife. So, and this family is she's my cousin sister, so I'm already very close to both kids. And so that time, just to overcome um, the situation, like I am doing nothing and just watching the films and sitting at home, and nothing is started. Our institute also shut down. So that time I decided to shoot something with their online classes. After 2 3 days, I come to know this is something interesting I'm getting. So I shot this thing around 5 months, and in December, I got to know about PSBT Film Challenge, and and their fund also. So I applied for PSBT Film Challenge with a 10-minute cut, which I used as a pitching cut for at many forums. So I won a silver award in a amateur category at PSBT, and I also secured a PSBT grant for the same topic for a long cut. And after that, the same cut I pitched to Generator Cooperative Art Production Fund. So I secured that grant also for the long cut. And with the same film, then I started applied to some face, like when the second wave started, and I'm making proposal, and the film is in at the last stage of the production, because I shot this film in a different stages after say a 4 month span. Like, so during second wave, when I again, that time I am at home, and then I decided to send the film in a diff. So that 10-minute cut selected in diff now, and the same film is also selected in International Documentary Film Festival Amsterdam in a youth documentary competition.
Excellent.
So
great. We'll move to JJ.
Yudhajit.
I'm just going according to like who was on my screen. So whoever wants to go.
Yeah. So am I audible?
Yes.
So hi everyone. I'm Yudhajit. I'm a final year student at FTII. It's really very great to be a part of DIF this year. And hi Akshay. He's my batchmate. And so We made this film Kalsubai as a part of a documentary project in FTI toward the early part of 2020, and then the pandemic happened. The film went to a number of festivals, won a bit of awards at Oberhausen, and then it's premiering at ITFA. And we are doing the first Indian premiere at DIF, and I'm very happy. I just wanted to be there in person because I think I was very curious about this festival long before because of the venue, and I have a personal fascination with the Himalayas. And incidentally, when the festival is happening online, during that time I'll be in Dharamshala touring for a project of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it would have been great, but then unfortunately, the situation is very like such that we can understand we can't do it online. You can't do it offline, and the whole I think the specialty of this festival is also its venue, where the festival takes place. I mean, I think it's very few festivals in the world which takes place in a place like Dharamshala, which is why I was very keen that if I want to do a premiere of my film in India, it has to be DIF because I have a very special liking for this festival. So yeah, I'm very happy to be a part of DIF. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks.
Hi, I am JJ. Hi, everyone. Yeah, like Yudhajit said, I'm very sad that DIF is not happening on offline. Last time also my film got selected. So last time again, it was pandemic. And this time I thought, okay, maybe this time I would be able to go and attend the festival. But unfortunately, that did not happen. So I'm also a film school. I'm from a film school background. I studied at SRFT, Kolkata. So after studies, I wanted to explore in the medium. And I had a camera in my hand. So I started shooting and exploring around me. And so when the pandemic happened, again, this is a pandemic film. So I was stuck in Goa during the pandemic. I was assisting an edit of a feature film. And so in March 8, I guess, I was supposed to come back in March, but then due to the COVID situation, I was not able to come back. And so we were at a beautiful location. I was staying with a family, with my editor, and it was it was a very, what to say, it was a very beautiful time in my life, and to be honest, and the space, the people, everyone was so nice. So everything, I think I was just capturing. I was not intending to make a film. And then at the end, I thought of exploring and experimenting with the footage I have, and I ended up making this film. This is kind of a observational film, you could say that. And also I'm trying to have a conversation with the audience, to engage with the audience, what meant to be a fiction, what meant to be non-fiction. So I'm in a way exploring and experimenting in the medium with this work. And yeah, that's it. I am very excited to see all of your work, and then so that's there, and congrats to all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely. I think everyone's all your films that I've watched, they just gave me a lot of energy, So to briefly tell you about myself, I'm Priya Sen. I also have a film in the same category as in the Indian documentary category, even though it says experimental in the before that, because somehow the names of these categories somehow don't necessarily describe what we do. But it's good to have them, I suppose. Anyway, so the film that I made with my collaborator and friend Nicholas, who is in Argentina, and Nicholas and it's called Faasla. And Nicholas and I actually have been, we became friends because we started doing this video exchange with each other. We'd send each other videos, and we'd make videos and sort of respond to each other. And we've been doing this for kind of like 10 years. And of course, not the whole time, but we used to have also this video poetry collective in Bangalore. When we were both teaching. So Faasla happened because we decided to do this, to write letters to each other during the first 5 months of the pandemic, these video letters to each other. And so and we did not think that it was going to become a film. It was part of like an installation project that was going to be in Buenos Aires. So we felt completely and utterly free with composing these little letters to each other, and then we compiled it into a 50-minute piece. And I think we were curious to see whether it worked as a film, and it kind of did. And it started getting picked up by a few festivals. I'm really glad to have it being shown at DIF. It's amazing because that's the other thing, your film circulates in other places, and then it doesn't somehow circulate. It kind of circulates here after. But it's really important, for at least for me, to have my work shown here. And at DIF, it's like, it's kind of like the best premiere, Indian premiere in that sense. I have had the absolute pleasure of being at DIF twice, once in 2012 and once in 2019 with my last film, it's called Yeh Freedom Life, and that was shown there. And yes, it is, I totally and utterly miss being there, because the energy of that festival, the mountains, somehow it's just kind of this, it's just really it's just so, well, that I can't really describe it, but anyway, it'll be back. And I think we can look forward to that. So just to move ahead with our conversation, I was just in fact struck by I think, Yudhajit, you're the only one that was not necessarily made during the pandemic, right? I mean, it was finished before.
It was finished before the pandemic.
It was finished.
The day we did the final sound mixing,
right,
the lockdown happened just exactly 15 days after that.
I see. Right. Yes, because I was just like, because earlier I thought that all the films actually were made during, and I was like, how on earth did you make this film during the pandemic? How, like, were you just one of those people who said, okay, I'm just going, and but it wasn't possible to do that. So I was wondering.
A few of my friends did actually.
Right.
I have a few friends here who did actually went out during the the high days of the curfew and make a film in the forest and something like that. I don't know what they're doing with the film right now.
Right.
And some caught by the police also during the curfew.
Right.
They had
that's I think we've all maneuvered this time in different ways. But I was actually just to start off the conversation, I thought, formally all your films are extremely specific and extremely open and fluid, and it was so exciting to watch. And I think you should all watch each other's films if you haven't already. And so the cinematic style and the language of all your films, and the fact that they're categorized under a documentary is something that just made me sort of reaffirm my absolute love for like nonfiction as this very, very fluid and open form, right? And of course, apart from all of the films, we're having the relationship between the camera, the frame that you all make in all your films. Even Akshay's is the very, very sort of being in the middle of this family. Shrutiman, this. I mean, I can't believe that you actually said that you did not make films before when you, after watching this film. And of course, all of the framing and this tapestry, the movement between the tapestry and the landscape in JJ's film, and the landscape itself in Kalsubai, and it's sort of the deep mystery of it. We're just sort of like it. They made me realize that the world that we were so cut off from while we were, during this time that we were not allowed to access it, was still so pressing and so urgent, right? And all these films have such an exceptional sort of relationship with that world. So I just wanted to ask, not really, what you feel about these three things, actually, sort of like cinema language, the form of your films that you choose to make, and how you actually, and your relationship with, maybe I should ask three different three different questions later, just to, because I'm really interested in sort of the location, space and time, and in all your work, and hence the form that it takes. So do you want to talk about sort of how you feel about film language and how that becomes sort of possibly a way to structure your work? Anyone? Because I know, JJ, you're an editor as well, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
studied editing.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Yeah, I think I'll try to answer. I mean, I'll try to express my thoughts in this.
Yeah, just exactly. Just like, what do you feel about film form, the form that you're filmed? Because they're all very specific in terms of form.
Yeah. So like you said, so I tried to communicate, like I was, the pandemic was going on and we were not able to move out of the place where I was in. And there was a small kid, Ananta was there. So that also created, because that gave us extra conscious that we should not move out. And so we were very kind of in a space. And at the same time, I was always, and the work was almost over. And this 1 month I almost spent there. So I was always sitting in my room, and there was an open balcony, and I was, most of the time I was standing or sitting. I mean, I was just looking through the window, standing in the balcony. So this is the, so these images were already there within me, and I was just capturing through the medium which I had a camera. And so like I said, I was not intending to make a film about the space or because of the situation while I was shooting. But when I was going through the footage when I came back home and saw the footage, I thought I was actually trying to see something in that space, trying to feel something. The things I felt might be interesting to others, or the things I have wrote down in my diary while seeing through the balcony might be something which I want to talk to the people, something which I want to have a discourse on. So I was seeing people around. I was seeing this just plain sky, and birds were just flying away, and they were forming patterns. And my father and son are always coming to the field and trying to fish, but they were always quite unsuccessful, sadly. And also, like there are a lot of things are happening in front of me, and I was just making notes of them while I was there, just randomly standing there. So in the movie start, see, sometimes a crane might come and sit on a branch, and where all the birds will fly away, but this particular crane wouldn't move from the space. So these type of what you call these events which kind of unfolded in front of me, kind of things which touched me. I just wanted to kind of see what could happen if I juxtapose these images and my thoughts together in it. So this is how the whole film started. And also I don't think that there is a particular distinction between documentary and narrative fiction. So I think because I work in such a manner, and I don't have enough funds or anyone to support. I mean, I don't have enough money to make and to cast someone. And there are a lot of restrictions in terms of making a film during the pandemic, or even after that, in terms of so even without all that, still you could communicate with the world through your visual medium, through how you juxtapose with audio and visuals together. So this was my idea behind making the film. At the same time, I also have an active discourse between the audience while making the film. I kind of want to break the expectations of the viewer, kind of try to say that I'm going to tell some stories to you, but I'm actually not telling any stories, in fact. So these are the things I want to explore, and I want to know how the audience will react to it, how they will talk. I mean, I have already sent to my friends, and I wanted to know how they think about this. So the reactions I got were very interesting. So this is in a way quite an experimental work. Also, in a way, making a statement that it's not stories that constitute. I mean, when you say about documentary or fiction, we always say this is something real. This is not real. So that is. I don't think that reality doesn't come, or documentaries is not exactly something real. It's always who makes, what makes. Everything comes together, and we are making a statement, an audiovisual statement through any form of art, I feel, especially through the films. So yeah, that's it. I think
so it's like film as thought, like how do you actually express onto the medium things that a certain thought process and a certain way of like thinking, rather than actually saying, okay, this is fiction, this is documentary, this is real, this is the truth. Like it's none of that. It's sort of like subconsciously. But the language that you use for that becomes very particular in terms of how you construct it, right? I mean, and that's what I meant. Shrutiman, do you have any would you like to sort of tell us how you, because the sound image relationship in your film is so unexpected, and it's what you see and what you hear, and given that you have you're a musician and you have a very close relationship with sound, which is sort of equal in terms of the elements that film
Absolutely.
require, right? So would you like to say a little bit about sort of like the sound image relationship that you have played with in your film, or that you have constructed?
So actually, for me, generally I prefer hearing sounds if like it helps me a lot to like if I listen to particular sounds and I can just suppose and the visuals kind of play in my head when I hear things, and I try to give more emphasis on sound from the very beginning. But with this project, I knew that I wanted to be with the kids for as long as possible and know more about them, how the pandemic has affected them. And at the same time, there were a few things that I knew that I like how I'm going to treat the, like, I don't want to consider documentary also. I don't know, like how you have been saying, like, it's like more of a experimental form. So I stayed with them for a couple of days. I didn't use cameras or anything. I just was observing them, making notes. And so one thing I knew that like time was limited. I had 10 minutes. So I wanted to, they should represent the entire community, the entire people. So I wanted to be distant. That's what I knew I have to do. And either I can be extremely close with them, but I didn't want to reveal like the characters, because I think that, all these kids, all these people of the village, I mean, they represent the entire community. So that was one thing that I knew I wanted to, how I wanted to treat it. And then about the sounds, there were a few sounds that were always there. Like when I was staying in the village, the sound of that, what's the dheki? Dheki is, I don't know what's the English term for it, but they use it to make the medicine for, the local brewery, the rice beer, rice wine. Yeah. So they use that the entire day, like in the daytime also, they will use that at night also. So so all these sounds that I've been hearing, like I used to, visualize other, like the visual elements, what will go along with them. And there are a few things like the kids running. So there was, like, I'll give you an example. Like I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night around 4 a.m, this old lady, she was on the dheki, and she was preparing her things, and I could hear that constant rhythmic sound, like tuck tuck tuck. And at the same time there were kids running around. Like at 4 it was misty, and it was dark, and these kids, like 7-8 kids, are running right next to my bed, like, near the hut. And it made sense to me. So that's how most of the sounds, like, I decided to use, and whatever worked well, because a lot of things are repetitive in the village. So whatever made sense to me, I decided to use.
Right. So no, I think, and also I think Akshay did something where, because that film is also about, his film is also about children, sort of, not to make these easy comparisons, but just in terms of filming with certain people, with Kalsubai is totally different, right? I mean, so Akshay, do you mind if we go to you now and ask you about like how you actually what that relationship, because the other thing is about, you know, as Shrutiman was saying, you know, there's so many things that come together in a film. Also the decisions you make, representation, like you said, which in nonfiction is something that is sort of at the heart of many things, but you have to actually go beyond that in many ways, right? I mean, sort of you have to find a way in which to not necessarily make that about like the central sort of impetus of the film. But you can't ignore it. And so how do you actually do that? So Akshay, if you'd like to sort of talk about that relationship that you explored just for those few minutes in the film being just
Yes,
few minutes, yeah.
So just before the lockdown, like I and Yudhajit, we both are in a documentary semester. As Yudhajit already told, that we just finished our semester and the lockdown happened. So that time, as a cinematography student, we need to like I shot a documentary in that semester, which is also an observational type of documentary. And that documentary has a world premiere last year in DIF. So after that semester, when I was at my home, and in our documentary semester, we had a workshop with Ramni sir, then Avidhit Kulkishore sir. So I saw their documentaries which they made in their home with a minimum crew and with minimum like equipment. So when this online, like when this education is shifting totally online, that time one of my friend, his name is Divya. So he told me there is something, this thing happened, and he wants to shoot something. And I'm also, because before before this topic, I shot 2 topics, but I didn't edit that, and then I started this one. So and one thing which helps me more is the curiosity about that online education. So when I'm shooting this, so whole family is curious about the online classes, and their daily adventure about their everyday classes. So I got this adventure. So I got this advantage that no one is like everybody is look familiar with the camera and with me when I'm there. So this one is the advantage for me while shooting this. Also I like to shoot like in a cinema variety type, because in our documentary semester also we get some chance to explore around Pune and make some project, make some practicals to submit in our department. So that time also I shoot some different topics, and all 4 topics are in the same pattern that I didn't take interviews. So these are the things which maybe this thing also come in this film, that Mahalle School Family Going Line. So and I like the documentary form where the camera where the cinematographer have a lot of control when camera is in hand and you follow your intuitions. So this is also one thing which helps me in this pandemic to keep on working.
Yeah. But also because the camera it also becomes a participant in the the scene, right?
As I told you, I'm so they are my niece and nephew, so they are very friendly with me, and that's why most of the time this thing happened. So when the class is going on and mother is not beside them, so they ask me ki, "Arey, what to do now?" Or sometimes when there is a network issue, then that time I also speak with them ki use my Wi-Fi or something like this thing. So I decided to keep this all thing in the edit. So while editing this 10-minute cut, uh, so while editing this, I was in Aurangabad, and my senior told me to participate in PSBT because we make a pitch deck, and when I show that pitch deck to some seniors like Payal and Arya, so and other seniors also, so they told me to participate in PSBT, and so that in a very like few days, like 4 days, we edited, like I have around 20 hours footage that time. So from that 20 hours, there is like, it's a challenge to make a 10-minute cut, but there is no option, because if I want to participate in that thing, so I like we edit this film. My batchmate Sudarshan sound design the sound for this. Dhanesh Gopal is another, like he is a editor, so he co-edited this film with me. So all these thing happen, like the post, like for this 10-minute cut, I use a lot of like production time, and post production time is very less compared to that. So this is something new, um, which I learned during making this film. Like, so first time I edited something, and first time I directed something.
Well, clearly you have a knack for it. But I just want to move, Yudhajit, yours is the only, I mean, we haven't actually started talking about the films as specifically being made during a certain time in the pandemic. And I think the experience of doing that is quite significant, because it's a whole other thing actually to actually have to do that, because you're kind of thinking, because the world something has shifted, and it has shifted universally. But but for you, I wanted to just go to your film and ask you, because it's kind of a contrast as to what location means, during the pandemic, and then something that's done before, and not to frame it with the pandemic at all. But I just wanted to ask you about your idea, or your thoughts on place, and on shooting shooting in certain places, on how important sort of the mythologies of that I mean of that region, or a particular story, and I know it's beautifully, absolutely beautifully portrayed in this film, where it's a poem. It's almost like it's so poetically done, but it's also so urgent, so I just wanted to ask you about how you and you decided to use a different kind of frame, right? I mean, so those decisions, and so generally, again, getting back to the question of form for you, and how you construct this kind of language around this myth, around this story.
Well, actually, to be very frank, it's very difficult to say about these things. I mean, of course, we can reflect back on what were going on inside our mind. But it's very difficult. And every time I say something, I feel that no, I did not say the right thing. It's not exactly that way. It's more like a concocted way of, because then you use words, but then you do it with image.
With something else, yeah.
So every time I think I'm lying. I'm not really being truthful. But anyway.
Tell us a version. Tell us your version of that. It's all versions anyway, all of us.
So one thing was like that. I have. I mean, photography is something that comes very naturally to me. So I'm making photographs for quite since my school days. So when I started making films, and it was from a visual, perspective. And in fact, I wanted to learn the camera. I wanted to join FTI as a cinematographer. But then I realized that I don't have broad shoulders, and there's certain other things even like cinematography in India requires, which is why I joined direction. But then, so when I didn't know much about fiction, non-fiction, all these categories, but making images was something I was comfortable, and I really it's very liberating. So in our semester, we were taught about documentary and everything, but then when I went to that place, it's in Bhandardara. I realized that there's a whole new world which was very alien to me. I mean, I come from West Bengal, from Calcutta, from an urban background, and I very little experiences I have of interacting with really really primordial villages, and even Maharashtra is a culture that was also not very known to me. I mean, I'm a Bengali, so in all things it was like encountering the other, you know. So it was interesting, but at the same time I was very uncomfortable too, because I didn't know the culture, I didn't know the language, so I didn't know where I was getting in. So I did a lot of research with my friends and everything, and the initial draft of the certain idea that I had of the film is a very different one. We recorded a lot of interviews, many interesting people I met. I remember one particular kid, a 12-year-old kid. I wanted to make the film on him, and we also become very good friends within the time I was researching that and everything. But when we finally went there to shoot, I realized that this is like learning an instrument and then suddenly going to play it in a concert, and you are not ready for that. So I decided that this is all on the surface, and I really do not know what I'm doing. So then I went back to my way of making a film, like a just a poem, just a reflection of how I felt while I was roaming through the forest. I was talking to the people, and this very weird story of Kalsubai, I really do not know what does it mean. Actually, I'm still trying to figure it out. So I wanted that, okay, let me do it the way I felt. The film should be like a diary of my reflection, how I reacted to it. Because it was true, when I was listening to the women, various versions of the story, in my head it was like one woman narrating this entire legend of a Koli girl. It was like I was hearing one voice in my head, so I kept it. And then I used a voiceover artist and not someone from the village, because again I wanted to have that detachment from the material. I didn't want to make it clear that I'm an insider. I wanted to make it very clear that the film is made from an outsider's point of view, from a distant vision. And that's also very interesting, because in a country like India, it is not possible to have an insider's point of view about most of the culture, because it's like we live in so many countries with so many languages, so many people, which is why I think we are so international from our mindset. It becomes very easy for us to interact with other culture, and this also fascinates me personally. And I love to make films in different language. Before this, I have made a film in Kashmiri, and that I made a film in Nepali. So I really want to explore this transnationality that we have in India. And so far as form is concerned, it's
I mean, you don't have to answer that question in that way.
I mean,
It's just a word that I'm using.
one thing is, of course, I mean, it's almost like it's making this kind of a film. Of course, I haven't made a feature film yet, so I do not know what goes on inside the mind when you really. I have written a feature script, but I haven't made it, so I can't say. But for a short piece of film like this, it's almost like making an improvisational music. I mean, the way one does a piece of jazz.
Absolutely.
You start with one note, and you do not know where you're going, but you have a very vague idea in your mind. I mean, you know what is the source of it, where you want to head it, but you do not know the exact way the journey will be for you. So it's almost like making music with your hands. So yeah, it's somewhat like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just thinking that how for all of us, I think, and I have sort of worked like this for many years now, which is a very sort of solo. I'm not saying that you all necessarily were solo in the post-production, or because film is always seen as this extremely collaborative, and it is this whole way in which you actually work with other people. But a lot of people also work very much by themselves, right? And I think that was one thing I think that was common between all our films, is that we were extremely solitary while making them. And I wonder whether that there's a certain quality of that comes through, because it's not like you're actually, I don't know, because I think all of you filmed yourselves, right?
No.
You didn't film yourselves.
Part of the FTA project.
Yeah, you were part of a team, but whatever. I mean, I don't mean it very literally in that sense, but I just feel there's a certain kind of direct sort of intimacy with what it is that you're encountering, and especially when because you're not thinking of it as a feature. You're not thinking of, I don't know, like you're thinking about it as some sort of like I'm not speaking for you, I'm just speaking, say, from my own experience of, and it's not even an encounter, it's not that strong either. It's just moving through, right? And moving through with yourself and the camera in many ways, and thinking, and so this way in which one thinks about film, and not being concerned whether it is fiction, non-fiction, but you're in the world and you're shaping your way of being in it. That is something that I found extremely strong, and in all our films. Actually, I'm putting myself in this as well. But I wanted to actually, I think maybe maybe as a last sort of just provocation question, in terms of, because everyone is sort of making, everyone's relationship with images, with the image, and I'm speaking about image and not necessarily sound currently, is so personal, is so strong, is so there, that what do you feel is sort of the potential of the image at this very critical juncture that we're in, politically, planetarily, in the ways in which we have to think about how we make stuff, how we make our films, what are we responding to, how do we see ourselves as people who will continue to do work, because on the other hand is the image of the consumable image, the way in which we're consuming it, the way in which we are literally being, I mean, I feel like it's a bit of an assault of like social media sometimes, and I don't mean to sound like this, but I'm just saying that social media has its place and all of that, but there's a certain kind of image that has become so prescient in terms of how we are looking at the world, and yet we have to make this other image. Like, for example, during the pandemic, right? The two phases of the pandemic here. The first part, according, like in my mind, was the image of this, and they were called migrant workers, these figures that were moving through this country doing, and somehow it's almost like we heard the word for the first time and seeing these people I mean, like, really, the whole thing was just like this bizarre frame that we were suddenly like within. And then the second one was this image of this funeral pyre, right? And so these images kind of took over our sense of that time, and yet we made other images. And that, so I'm just thinking about sort of this radical potential of image, and what that might, how you see yourselves as makers of these. And you don't have to speak about the film that you've made, but I'm just interested in how you think about image. How do you think about, like, what kind of images do we need? And how are we supposed to be making them, and how are we supposed to respond to some of the images that are being thrust upon us? Hatred being like the singular cause of a lot of these, right? So I'm just wondering, because I feel one is already there. You're making work, and you're making work at this time. So what does this mean? I mean, does anyone have anything to say about that?
I think, I had been pondering about it for a while, and we were making, I was writing something during this pandemic, and it is the main thing that was going on inside my mind was especially a question: what we have to do with image, or how we look at image. I just think that maybe our associations with images, or the way we had a relationship with images, it's really changing a lot. We used to speak a lot about interiority of the image. In cinema we hear words like interiority, the inside, the hidden of the image. You show little, and how Picasso used to do, and all those things. But now, I think this is coming on the surface. You do not have to talk about interiority anymore, because even if you shoot as you're saying, the funeral pyre, the image of the funeral pyre, it's no longer a pyre only. The connotation is changing. For example, a person with a mask is no longer a person with a mask. The connotation is changing. So I think overall, the spectacle of the image, I mean, the newness of an image is fading away. But on the other hand, the connotation wise, a new newness is coming. I mean,
Mhm.
new image in the way we relate to it. Not the image is new, but the relation is becoming very new. And so I think for people, as you were saying, who have a very solo journey with filmmaking, I mean, that solo has nothing to do with also a crew, I think. I mean, it's more a point of view.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in that kind of I mean, from that, I mean, I think we all belong to that fraternity of filmmakers
Mhm.
who do not have a lot of resources, and that is why we are very powerful, because we do not have them. Not having them is, is the power we have. So for us, I think it's it's the way that we had been doing films before the lockdown. I think our point of view will reach more people, because the the things that, not we have different filmmakers have different points of view, but overarching certain mode of production makes you think in a certain way, makes you part of a large collective. So in that way, I think that alternate thinking will no longer become not accessible to many people. I think many people, I have interacted with many friends of mine who do not watch so-called, art house films or films which are not made as part of mainstream. They're really watching it, and
Yeah.
they're interacting with it. So I think there's a change in even the mainstream was talking to the alternate. I mean, the dialogue is becoming more fluid, and people are really understanding. There's nothing alternate. It's just
It's all part of this practice of being in the world.
I think are getting accessible to many people other because of this forced stay in their homes, because many people, we used to live our life in autopilot, so we have to stop.
So do you think that has happened? I'm asking the others. Do you think this pause, this sort of like this way in which we've had to stop, and uh, whatever we've done while we've stopped, do you think that's shifted the way people are watching films or thinking about making films? Are you thinking of making films in a way that was different before and after? Or I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't think the way we think and the way we make films have changed. But then, like you said, you can see an explosion of images, which is happening in all the social media, in Instagram, and especially during the lockdown. I was seeing a lot of people coming. They were at your homes, and they were making their own content from their own houses, from households. They were just shooting what was happening around, and they were really interesting. I'm just not talking about the image, the quality of the image, or the beauty or the poetry of the image, but the things they were capturing, the dialogues that those were just spoken between two people, or your interaction with your mother. These were things which started to capture. People started to capture these things, and we are missing these things. This was not there. We were only, when we think about how you interact with your friend, our reference will be a film. Okay, our reference will be some other film, or how you interact with your mother would be a reference from a film or from a serial which we watched. Now it's not that. Now it's something you have seen recently from an Instagram feed from your friend, a story, a reel which you connected. So I think that's the power of the image which have come nowadays. And it's not just the image or the poetry, or but the things which are there in the image, or maybe it's just the black screen and what people, just the audio of it. And I think the moment we lose that what you call that attraction towards it, I think that's the time I mean, I have to stop filmmaking. I mean, I can't make films anymore, but I can't just juxtapose audio, images, whatever which is there. I can't keep on doing that anymore. That's what I feel personally. And yeah, I mean,
constantly, redefine what that is, right?
Yeah.
Redefine why you're making it and what it is, what image that you're making. It's like, because there's a fatigue that comes to it in any case, whatever, depending on whatever situation you're in. Sorry, I totally interrupted you.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, yeah. And I always used to think that whatever we do, whatever statement we are making, whatever we capture, it kind of represent what we are, or what the politics of ours. And like you said, we are living in different times. We are living under a regime which is ruled by this government. We are living really in terrible times to be in India and not to shoot certain things, not to talk about certain things, not to raise your voice against certain things is would be the future will definitely want to question you. Why didn't you speak up? I mean, in a way. So I think the image, whatever we do, whatever we capture, is kind of representing of at that time also, at that time what we used to think, I mean, I don't know what politics is, but basically I think the way of living, where you think, where you interact with others, that is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not saying, we don't have to define these things necessarily, but what I'm saying is that it's actually what you just said, we're not being able to do certain things. So then we find other things to do. And I think that is where the potential is in that, how are we going to say the things that we want to say regardless of the fact that we can't say them, which is what, when I think about Iranian cinema and like the censorship that they've been through, like historically, or, short historically, but an entire genre was produced of children's films. And that was deeply, deeply about saying the same thing, being equally critical and of whatever it is that they wanted to be critical about. So I'm just saying it's very exciting at the same time, the possibilities that we do have to, and I'm seeing it in all your work. That is why I'm so excited by it, in the sense like you don't have to say it, I'm not saying that you say this is political work and it's not. No, this is poetic, is equally put it, it's many things. It's what I'm saying is that, you sense that and so like when Shrutiman, when I see your work, I mean, I see those two, just that, the slipper coming down, the kid who shoots. I mean, like, these are powerful, there's meaning, is what I'm saying, and this way in which meaning has changed is constantly having to be renegotiated. Thought is, I think, what is like, just at least it keeps me going, like it's like, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter, the constraints are there, they've always been there. There are new constraints, that more dangerous constraints, but I'm saying that this thing that we do, I think will get us out of some kind of mental space where we feel completely right.
Yes.
Do you want to just say and what you feel about that? Is that something that you would continue to want to do? Because I mean, just like I remember like scenes from your film, for example, when you have this mother talking about her concern about her child, and then you just sees the forest, and just that distance, that just the way in which you've played with what it means to have this internal, is to have this very, very sort of deep, sort of this something that is so what's the word, poignant and like powerful as and simple, like as an emotion, like you're worried about your kid, and then you have these vistas, and you don't necessarily know why, and but you have a sense of it. So I think you've managed to do something like deeply, where really this whole meaning that I'm talking about has shifted, in the way one has seen your film.
I think,
yeah, tell me.
Yeah, the politics of films that you're talking about, I think it's really not possible to get away from politics also, because I think all the films that we have been doing, there will be like the way we interact with the people, and everything has obviously politics in it. And the decisions that personally I chose, to shoot in a particular way, those took time. I mean, I was there for quite some time, and all these things was coming. It was intuition, but at the same time, I think there's politics in there also. As in, but the decisions that I was taking, like I had to be sure that I don't misrepresent them. But again, at the same time, I wanted to be more, like a canvas, how I draw, right? So I wanted to be free, fluid, and at the same time, don't want to misrepresent. So there's politics in it, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I have a friend like who constantly helped me out, and like we're talking about like how going solo, and it's really a collaborative thing. It's impossible, I think, to be solo at the same time. But for me, there was one friend called Basu, like his film also was screened last year, and this year also both 2 years for him it has been online. But anyways, so he has helped me a lot. Like we were constantly on the phone, and we suffered the same consequences. But I mean, same things what like the villagers were facing. Like there was no network, there was no network coverage. So I had to walk like a mile to reach a particular point, like a hilltop, and then I had to talk to him and discuss about like how to go about like the whole thing. So
Right.
all these things I think showed it shows. I mean, because I also felt it, like what the people were feeling in the village, and obviously like it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, the sort of the filters come off. It's almost like, but yeah, maybe I think we can perhaps sort of close with this. I mean, and I'm not. Does anyone have any other thoughts about? I mean, and the other thing is like, it's not. I didn't like. Who said that it wasn't actually? It's not about necessarily having a crew or not having a crew, right? I mean, the idea of this. It's more like a point of. It's more like a certain kind of way in which you're sort of like doing that. Being in the world in a certain sense. And of course, I mean, it's all relational and as it must be, and life is but for some people it's more than others, I feel. It depends on how you do it. And of course, yeah, but I feel like it's extremely exciting to be able to actually think through a film, from and go through all the questions that you have and about how, about representation, camera, what's the camera saying, doing that, all of that. But so anyway, I think we shall end with this. And thank you very much. And for people who are watching this, please do watch these 4 films. They're absolutely stunning. And thank you all very much for being here and for talking. And I hope to sort of all of us perhaps meet one day at DIF.
Yes.
That would be great.
Yes.
Maybe next year, who knows? Right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.